Welcome to the Sharing Sox. Yes, we are now into spring training sort of games edition. Sort of games. I'm Leigh Allan, the Southside Sox duty geezer, and with me, my son and West Coast correspondent, Will, as we take a look at those games and some other things. A few things off the field yesterday. Now, we're recording this Wednesday at noon, so we don't have any knowledge of events of Wednesday, including Wednesday's game, where I know the starting outfielders once again are scheduled to be out there. But the starting pitcher is not anybody who's going to be in a major league team anytime soon or ever. And they didn't list who the next five guys are going to be. But at any rate, off the field, two things. Number one, AAA baseball, which was supposed to start when the major started, as it normally would in an ordinary year, even though everything from AA on down was delayed for a month. The AAA owners apparently were saying, we just can't afford to do that because we can have 10%, a lot of us in the stands, and at 10%, we lose more money than if we have nobody, which makes sense. You still got to have security and all these other things that you got to pay for. And you don't have anybody coming in to pay for it. So they're going to start a month late. And they're going to, again, because of that, create the alternate sites. So Schaumburg will have baseball again. That, I think, for the Sox raises more questions on Andrew Vaughn. Because if you're doing service time manipulation, but you want to pretend it's not service time manipulation, you send him to Charlotte and he gets in a few swings at AAA to make sure he's really ready for the big guys. Schaumburg is not the same thing. And saying, oh, we got to send him to Schaumburg to work on hitting sliders low and away or whatever it may be, it just doesn't make any sense. And with the contract coming up, the union contract coming up at the end of the season, I don't know that you want to have a really, really glaring service time manipulation situation with one of the leading owners, the leading anti-union owners. Jerry Reinsdorf is viciously anti-union. I don't know that you want to do that. So I think it kind of leans toward Vaughn, unless something bad happens, starting the season with the big boys.
Well, I think he should. I mean, we the service time manipulation is one thing, but honestly, we're not going to be good in 6 years. So I think the best thing to do is put the best players on the field now and bring them up. I mean,
and you've already committed to that situation with the Lance Lynn trade.
Right. Exactly.
You traded away 6 years of a pretty good pitcher.
Hey, yesterday they were talking that Dane Dunning's going to be the number one in Texas.
Well, it's a pretty weak team, but yeah, pretty weak pitching team. But yeah, I mean, he's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
And it's 6 years of him for 1 year of Lance Lynn. You got to make 2021 really important for that 1 year.
Yeah.
The other thing, which kind of goes into the Vaughn question as well, is Yoenis Cespedes had a showcase yesterday, apparently very impressive, and the White Sox were there.
So wait, that would be the younger Cespedes, you mean? Or do you mean
No, the old man.
Oh, really?
The old brother, 35-year-old, 35, I think he is.
Old man, dang.
Yeah, you're only 34.
Yeah, this dude's ancient.
He did it, the showcase. And this is time for a rant right here, not about Yoenis Cespedes or about DHs or who could play left field for the Sox at times, whatever. The rant is, they haven't officially decided on March 3rd whether the National League is going to have a DH or not. Yeah. Major League Baseball has to be the worst run, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and it is absolutely incompetently run, unbelievably. If the people who run Major League Baseball ran Amazon would be one corner little supermarket somewhere in the middle of Iowa.
It'd be gone already. It's just
unbelievable how bad. And I understand you got 30 incredible egos that you've got to assuage if you're the commissioner of baseball. But come on, guy, you got to. This is not an impossible decision.
Spring
You said,
training
yes,
has
we
started.
will, no, we won't. Boom.
We're in spring training games. Granted, they're not real, especially this year. It seems like by any matter, but it is absolutely insane that we don't have an answer to this question. It is insane. We are less than a month away from opening day, and we don't know. We don't know if pitchers are going to bat. This is insane. This is insane. This is the only time
Should
of
your
year
pitcher be up there, be practicing his bunting every day?
Absolutely. Your pitchers should be filling out the lineup in spring training if they're going to bat again this year. It should be a starting pitcher, and then the first 8 batters should just be pitchers, and then just put them out there to play defense wherever, because it doesn't matter if anyone actually plays or scores or wins or anything like that. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Baseball is the worst run of the major sports. There's no doubt about it. It is painfully slow to get anything done. And this is just it's just a shining example of it. And it's really mind-blowing that they haven't made a decision on this. There's so much money that is going to change hands when this decision's made. It's crazy to me they haven't made the decision just because there's so much money involved.
It's crazy. I mean, and part of it, I guess, has to do again with the union contract at the end of the season and all that. But come on, you've got 15 teams who don't know whether their pitchers are going to bat this year or not, whether they need somebody who is maybe can't play the field at all anymore, but who can hit, at Yoenis Cespedes, or any number of other guys. Unfortunately, we can mention shortly.
It's crazy because it really changes the game in the National League. Your entire game plan has to change if one of your 9 batters is most likely an out. That it completely changes the outlook of a game. Every decision you make changes on whether or not that pitcher has to go bat, whether or not you're essentially taking the auto out, or if you actually have to face someone who can hit the ball 450 feet.
Now, let us clarify one thing here. We hope it won't be the case this year, but for many years now, the White Sox have also had an automatic out in what we call the DH position, but that was voluntary.
That is true.
We did it to ourselves.
Yes, we paid people for it. We paid people specifically to get out. And I'm looking at you, Adam Dunn.
Lots of money in some cases. Lots and lots of money.
Edwin Encarnacion, Yonder Alonso. What? Oh my God.
And it goes back. I believe we go back to Adam Dunn and we come forward from there. LaRoche was in there.
It's bad. It's a bad group. It's a bad group. Dunn was the best of that group, which really tells you something.
Yikes. Well, at least Dunn took walks. That was about it. Anyhow, we do have the games. Tony La Russa said Tuesday he really doesn't like, and apparently Jerry Reinsdorf really doesn't like the idea of taking pitchers out in the middle of innings and just calling the inning over, which we've seen in all 3 games, I think, so far.
So wait,
2 ties.
So I actually haven't heard their opinion on it. They like ending the inning abruptly, or they don't like it?
No, they don't. They don't. And they're saying it's unfair to the fans. And I think that's true. You've got people paying for seats. You're paying more for a seat at a spring training game this year than for 90% of the seats at the Gerf 90% of the time.
Yeah,
Long seats are going for $40, and you want to sit down, it's 60 or more. For a spring training game that goes 6 innings at best, and then the bases are loaded with 1 out, and
not to mention, because I don't live that far from Glendale, so I've looked at all my options for going over there. Most of the time you can't get 1 seat. You have to get 2, minimum 2, but most of the time it's 4. So you're talking about $240 to go to a spring training game if you buy a pot of 4. That is insane. There's a reason I'm not in Glendale right now, podcasting to you from Glendale. It's because tickets to today's game were $93 or something like that on the secondhand market. I was like, I'm not paying $93 to watch McClure or whoever it is pitch a game. And the whole we're gonna end an inning early thing is so lame. It is so lame. I actually appreciated La Russa coming out and revenge ending an inning yesterday like he did, because the White Sox were winning and we were rallying and they were like, we're done with this inning. I was like, okay.
I do think, particularly yesterday, and I don't think it was true Monday that the White Sox got the short end of the stick on that. And I don't think it came up Sunday. But on Tuesday, the White Sox really did get the short end. I think it bases loaded twice.
I mean, it was ridiculous. It was take my ball and go home bad. It was absolute nonsense. You could see all the players were even like, what is this baseball now? Because it was so lame. And, fans at the stadium aside, the people who can afford to go to these spring training games right now, I don't really care if they get their money's worth. It doesn't really bother me. But you have your coach who comes in and talks about this winning culture and how you have to learn to win. And we're not, and to La Russa's credit, he doesn't like this stuff. So he is very anti, from what you're saying, ending the inning early. But how do you establish your routine for winning and your culture for winning when no one even cares if you end the inning? Like it is the opposite of interesting baseball. It's like they took baseball and they were like, all those rules we're making to try to make fans more engaged, we're going to take a big steamy dump on those because we're just going to let you call it whenever. It is absolutely stupid. It is so stupid. I can't believe you're allowed to do it. Can't believe you're allowed to do it.
The one possible upside I saw to it, and I had our investigative team of crack attorneys look into the contract, and unfortunately, there is nothing in Tony La Russa's contract that says if he doesn't win one of his first 3 spring training games, he's gone. They hoping for an out there, but it wasn't there.
Hey, you know what? Obviously, I don't like La Russa, but the guys seem to think he's okay so far. And if La Russa is anti-ending an inning because you feel like it, then I am one step closer to thinking he's okay. I'm still not even on the positive side, but I'm one step closer to getting to the positive side. It is, oh my gosh, it was infuriating watching that yesterday. And when they had the bases loaded and they were rallying, I was like, if La Russa doesn't come out of this dugout and end this inning right now, I'm going to be so pissed. And sure enough,
he did.
He popped out and he was like, yeah, I think we'll end it. So kudos to you on that one, Tony. I love anything for spite. I'm a big Seinfeld guy, so I like anything that's done for spite.
Except by orange-haired people.
Well, let's take a quick break, and we will come back and talk about some more things. Before the break, though, I do need to point out I am wearing my authentic Chicago White Sox Luis Robert jersey, and it's real and not fake because the patch of the White Sox is sewn on wrong. That's how you know it's real. Not that I paid $39 and it shipped up. Oh, there's a cat behind me. You can't see him in the background. Not because I paid $39 and it took a month to get here from Wuhan, but because the patch is on sideways. That's how you know you got the good deal. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. All right, welcome back to Sharing Sox. We spent the first half of today's podcast ranting about weird spring training nonsense and MLB's inability to tell us whether or not we're going to need a DH when we're playing on the road against National League teams. What else you got for today?
Well, let's look at the games. Let's start with the pitchers. The only pitcher the Sox have had out there of any note is Lucas Giolito. He looked fine. He gave up a homer, but otherwise he looked great.
He looked good, yeah.
Nobody else who pitched really matters, although it's interesting that Steve Stone on Sunday's game said something that's very counterintuitive. Intuitive would be that you had a very short season last year. Everybody should be well relaxed, in good shape, as far as we're talking pitching. and ready to go. And what he said was, because they only threw maybe 60 innings in the case of a starter, 15, 20 innings in the case of a reliever last year, that they really have to be careful with innings this year. That the guys are, that's the opposite. They are not ready to go to any length or to any depth into the season. So you got to baby them along. I'll take, Stoney knows his pitching, so I'll take his word for it. That makes some of these guys who pitched for the Sox the first 3 days could end up in the majors for, a cup of coffee, a few games to give somebody a break. We did not pitch well by and large. Kelly Medeiros had a clean inning. He might come up.
I don't think we're really in danger of seeing these guys pitch in the majors. I think really what we're just going to see is extremely limited pitch counts early on. We have this fantastic bullpen, so I think you're just going to see, you're going to see everybody in the first few games.
And we pretty much know who the 13 are. Probably every other team has got one or two openings in their pitching. As far as the relievers go, we don't have any. We've got 8 guys. Kyle Kubat had a clean inning. The other one that was interesting, because he has been in the majors and he was last year, was Jose Ruiz, who had a nice inning. But Ruiz is one of 2 members of the Sox who are out of options. The other one's Evan Marshall, and they're not sending Evan Marshall down unless it's for rehab, and a rehab is a permitted exception to the options rule. Ruiz, I think he could be gone, because at this point he has to go through waivers, and I think he's good enough. He ain't great, but he's good enough to make somebody else's pitching staff. I mean,
yeah.
And I think
there are
somebody
a lot
will
of
pick him up on
teams,
waivers and he's gone.
there are a lot of teams that would pick him up, I think, just to have that extra arm. I don't think he's a Sox player by the end of spring training. And I just don't anticipate a lot of these guys being on the these sort of scrub pitchers being on the squad at the start. I think we're going to see.
None of these guys. No, of the guys who have pitched so far, the only one who will be on the major league team April 1st is Giolito.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was actually surprised to see
some of them will be in Korea or Japan, or coaching a high school team.
I was surprised to see Giolito out there so soon, actually, but I was very pleased with what he did. I mean,
I'm sure it was to work on something special.
And the home run he gave up, if you care about giving up a home run in spring training at this point, I don't know what to tell you, because we don't even finish innings these days.
So to get over to the position players now, everybody who needed to look good at least got one hit, except Eloy, and he's fine. He didn't strike out or anything. It's gone. Yes, you are mostly facing minor league pitchers. So it doesn't tell you a heck of a lot. But Adam Engel, big blast. The big blast, of course, Andrew Vaughn, on Tuesday, taking an inside pitch and just hammering it. Again, not against a good pitcher, but it's a lot better than.
But he also made it look easy. I mean,
he also made one look. He had a nice defensive play. The only really nice defensive play about the Sox, not because they've been blowing him, but because they just haven't come up, was his, which was a little dive to the left on a low line drive, and made a nice snag of it. So he's done so far what he can do to say, I really ought to be in a White Sox uniform on the 1st of April.
Honestly, there's no excuse for him not to be, other than trying to do the service time thing, because he has proven that he should be up in the bigs and should be in that lineup, and he should be in the lineup that's making a run for the 2021 World Series. I mean, I do think he is a big part of that run.
It does leave us, but it would leave us this way, whether they delay him coming in or not, still with the problem of being very, very right-handed. You got the 2 switch hitters, and Grandal and Moncada, and the one lefty in Eaton. The two switch hitters are not particularly good left-handed. Not that they're bad left-handed; they're just pretty balanced. So we're still, I mean, last year a losing record against righties, even with the horrible opposition. We had a losing record against righties, and that's a danger. It would be nice to have another lefty who take some of that power off. I don't know where it's going to come from at this point.
I don't see it happening, to be honest.
The shill who writes, I keep forgetting his name, I can't remember it, but who writes for MLB.com and just shills whatever the White Sox tell him to write, is suggesting that they will keep both Lucroy and Collins when the season starts as backup catchers. But boy, and this was mainly everything's looked nice. I mean, other than stupidity of ending the innings and all that. The play itself has looked fine for the White Sox, except Jonathan Lucroy. And it's scary because Grandal has not played yet, not because he wouldn't normally play, but because he has a little tweak to his left knee. Yes, they're being extra careful because the games don't matter, et cetera, et cetera. But, you don't like the idea that your starting catcher has a tweak to his left knee before he's even caught a pitch thrown in anger. And you really have no backup catcher. And Lucroy looked awful.
I mean, a part of that is that Lucroy hasn't really been, playing for a little while. But yeah, he looked terrible. I mean, he looked terrible. And I actually really like Jonathan Lucroy.
I do too. I mean, he was fantastic just a few years ago.
Huge fan of his in Milwaukee. Like, loved him. Would go up, would do the Lucroy thing when he came up to bat. He was a great player. But yeah, I mean, I think he is just, it's a brutal position on the body. And Lucroy is not a young man necessarily.
He's 34.
34, so he is a young man, a very young, handsome man. So, it is a huge problem. I would say it is the most glaring problem. And I hate admitting that to Mr. Backup Catcher. I hate admitting it. You were on this backup catcher journey for the last 3 months, and all I did was ridicule you and scoff at your antics and your malarkey. And now here we are, and I am admitting to the world, because I assume the world listens to this, that you're right, backup catcher. Big problem for us.
It is the biggest problem. If anybody else that they lost, and if you lose even Abreu or Anderson or Robert, yes, it goes. You go. It's a weakness, and you're a much weaker team. But you survive. You go along. You're okay. Vaughn plays first base. Leary plays shortstop.
You can cover it. You can cover it.
You make up for it somehow. But catcher, we got nothing. Zach Collins is not an answer. Although Zach did manage not to chase balls back to the screen for 4 innings the other day. But
well, the real concern too is a lot of people think you need a great catcher when you have bad pitchers. But you really need a better catcher when you have great pitchers, because those are the guys who are intentionally throwing the ball in the dirt. And they're doing that to get the strikeout. And it is a huge part of the game. And if you take that away, that's when you start seeing hung breaking balls. When you have pitchers who don't think the catcher's going to stop the ball, that's when they're going to hang the curve.
And we have Giolito doesn't necessarily pitch that way, nor does Keuchel. I don't know about Lynn. But Rodon, for example, very dependent. I mean, he's got a wicked bouncing slider, almost. I mean, it's just really good.
But even though
Crochet, can you imagine Crochet without something?
And even though Keuchel and Giolito don't base their game around that style of pitching, if the batter knows that the pitcher doesn't have that option, that eliminates a third of the terrain in which they have to protect the plate, because they know the guy's not going to throw in the dirt. I mean, it's all about who thinks who's going to do what when you're up there, unless you're the Astros, when you have privilege.
And yeah.
But that's the whole battle. That's why the Astros thing was such a disgusting form of cheating, is because pitchers have one advantage, really, and that's that the batter doesn't know what's coming. And at the major league level, that is it. I mean, you get down to high school, if you throw 95, your advantage is that you throw 95. But when you get to the pros, where every pitcher is good, really, every pitcher is very good at baseball. I think if you make it to the show as a pitcher, you're good at baseball. But yeah, it's hugely problematic to eliminate that part of the zone, to eliminate the possibility of throwing that breaking ball in the dirt. And if you come up with Lucroy there, and you've got a two-strike
Collins
count, or Collins, that you don't have to chase that pitch, because no one's going to throw it. They're not going to throw it. They're not going to risk the ball bouncing away. And that is where you start to see those curveballs and sliders that hang up there and get sent to the moon, especially with the juice ball. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And, even if the Grandal thing is not that serious, which it probably is not.
Oh, no, not at this point. Yeah.
He's still not a rookie. He's got to stay away from catching, a good 50 games. So it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. It's worse than I thought.
And they were saying this morning, there were so many chances. There had to be 24 free agent catchers, of which a few were top of the line. Obviously McCann and Real Muto above him, but mostly they were backup catchers, but decent backup catchers, guys who can, play the position well, can handle pitchers. Maybe they're 225 hitters, but they can get on every once in a while. And most catchers have a good eye. Catchers tend to walk more than I think anybody else, because they have a much better sense of the strike zone than everybody else. But yeah, to have passed on it, essentially to have passed on it in the off season, when you're gunning for 2021 as your big year, and it is, you got a terrible division. You're playing the National League Central again, which is barely AAA.
Honestly, it matters way more for the backup catcher to just be a good catcher. Like the hitting at this point's irrelevant for a backup catcher. If they can hit 200, but they're great behind the plate, that's great. That's what you're going to take from your backup. You obviously don't want that from Yasmani Grandal. You want him hitting in the high 200s and keeping up his form defensively. But it's hugely problematic. And, you can't take Lucroy down based on what we've seen already, but it is a bad sign. I mean, it was a sign of a guy who's struggling back there defensively. It was nice to see him hit. But that being said, a couple, a single and a double or whatever off of minor league pitching, I don't really care.
He ripped that double. He ripped
it. Of course he did. But, we don't even end the innings in spring training. So who cares?
Speaking of baseballs, I have not yet seen anything that tells me whether the ball is juiced or not. After that homer barrage on Sunday on our first game, it's quieted down to a normal kind of level. So it's hard to say.
I anticipate zero change. Zero change.
Just they're saying there's a change until you believe it, kind of thing.
And it was nice to hear Benetti and Stone saying, we really hope that there is a change.
Because I sure agree with them.
Yeah, I do too. I love a big home run as much as the next guy, but I hate 4 solo home runs before the 4th inning. It's so boring.
3 of which are routine fly balls that happen to make it to the second row.
Yeah. Stoney also said, let's move the fences back to 450.
That's a pitcher talking.
Yeah. Which I don't hate that idea either, just because we have Luis Robert. So that's still actually no problem.
We got it covered.
Yeah. We got it covered, which is why I'm sporting this very authentic Luis Robert jersey. Actually, I don't know if you can see, but they clearly didn't even have the right letters to make.
They spelled his name right anyway.
They spelled it right, but they had to add to an R to make the B in the middle of his name because they didn't have a B.
Well,
That's how you know you got the good stuff. I think we're about out of time for today. You got any last thoughts?
Well, just I'm actually covering the games Thursday and Saturday, which are only going to be on game day. I don't know if you watch game day at all.
No.
It's wonderful. You don't get the pitch, what the pitch is. You don't get the speed of the pitch. You don't get that little thing where the pitch comes in and you can see if it's a ball or a strike on pitch track. You don't get any visuals at all. You don't get a pitch count. You don't know what that is. All you get is what the batter did. You can't see where the batter hit the ball. You just know whether you had a hit or an out. So I really don't know what I'm covering.
I was really mad because, I love MLB TV, and I thought to myself, why the heck aren't more of these games on MLB TV? There's like a couple a day. And then we decided to end the innings because we didn't feel like playing them. And I was like, and that's why, because this is stupid.
Well, fortunately for the two of us, the phone service that we use, our carrier, happens to have a deal where they provide during the regular season MLB TV for free. So I'm not investing prior to the regular season coming along.
But it is strange to know that all this baseball is happening and we can't watch it. But as you said, we actually, I think, as White Sox fans, get more than other people get during this time. There's been a couple White Sox games aired on Comcast or Chicago Sports
and NBC Sports. Chicago.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we'll get more games moving forward, and we're still waiting out here to find out if there will even be fans in Anaheim for the.
Oh, that was I meant to bring this up at the beginning, and I forgot. The mayor yesterday said she believes that there will be fans in the stands for the White Sox and the Cubs at some point, but
okay,
wouldn't commit on what that point would be.
Well,
but
I mean, if indoor dining's open,
speaking in a very positive sense about getting fans into the stands.
If indoor dining's open in Chicago,
it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's open. It's kind of ridiculous how open it is, but
right. Yeah. I think there's a chance that we will see people in the stands for Angels games and not in the stands for Dodgers games to start the season, because Orange County is a different world from LA County. They have their own rules down there. So I think we might see full capacity and required French kissing at the first Angels game. But that's all the time we have for today. We will see you next week and give you an update on how many innings we did not complete this past week of spring training. On behalf of your West Coast correspondent and the duty geezer, Leigh Allan, thank you for listening to Sharing Sox.